Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mark with Wear Parts, and with me today I've got Eric Derry from our customer care team. And what we wanted to touch on today is our line of Otico gauge wheels, gauge wheel tires, and press wheels. Eric, tell us just a little bit about this product family.
Sure. Well, Otico is a French company. It's been around for 30 years. They're one of the European leaders in tire technology, especially when it comes to agronomy. They have their own, they've come up with their own proprietary compound of rubber that's going to be really long wearing and very consistent. They do a really good job of with these and making these specialty tires.
That's good. I've actually toured that factory. It's just outside of Paris in France there, and the quality, the cleanliness, looking at those extrusion lines and their ovens and everything, is top-notch facility, immaculate, clean, very very high-end facility building these tires. So one of the things about the Otico tire is it's called a farm flex, and if you look here, it flexes here. There's actually a void in a cavity in the tire. I don't have a cross section here, but it flexes. Tell us what's the advantages, Eric, of a tire that flexes?
Sure. Some of you folks might remember going back years ago, the gauge wheels would have been made out of metal, and as that happened in that case, as they're going through the field, they're going to be collecting mud and dirt, so they would actually have to run a scraper system on there. Gotcha. To be able to clear that mud off so that it continues to turn and keep that depth consistent and be able to wear consistently along that opener blade.
But with the flex, it's self-cleaning, isn't it?
Right. As that material flexes and springs back, it's going to be popping that mud and dirt off as it goes, while still maintaining that proper depth and that good contact against the blade.
And one other thing here, so this tire would have been extruded and then vulcanized together, but one thing you can't see here or feel is the seam. Other brands of tires, you can see right where that seam happened, right. And it's actually where that seam is actually quite a bit stiffer. So as that tire rotates on the ground, it actually lopes a little bit, whereas this here is just a very consistent tire, and just if you see the inside here, these grooves in here to keep the tire from rolling off the rim. So
another thing to note too is when you look at the edge is very consistent in its thickness, so that as it's wearing along that opener, it's going to wear consistently and not have those thin spots and thicker spots where it have more of a chance of failure.
That's actually a good point, because we've taken the Otico gauge wheels and we've tested run out actually on them compared to other brands out there, leading brands. There's obviously a lot of gauge wheels coming out of Asia as well, but the run out, the wobble and the lope of these tires is unmatched. It's the best in the world that we could find. So.
And a lot of that comes down to the hub that they're using, the hub and bearing. So they've built their own cast iron hubs. This particular one is a 3-spoke for I believe that's a 2.5 inch wheel.
2.5 spoke, yep.
So very high consistency, very maintaining those tolerances, keeping those all the same so that everything is going to be running true, using high quality bearings, high quality castings, making sure that when that thing is going through the field, just like those openers are, making sure that they're running true and staying right up against that blade.
That's good. So tell us, what all wheels do we have to offer with the Otico lineup?
So sure, what we typically have are the 3 different sizes. The 4.5 inch, which is
here,
the very wide one there. We offer that in both a solid wheel and a 3-spoke wheel similar to this. We also do that in the 3 inch, 3-inch solid, 3-inch spoked, and also, as I showed previously, the 2.5-inch, the spoked and the solid.
One thing to note is on these 2.5-inch ones, the bearing is thinner because you got to maintain that same backside offset, but then you don't want that bearing to be protruding
Right.
outside of the wheel. So these bearings are quite a bit narrower than the ones on the 3-inch and the 4.5.
Right, we're still using, even though it is thinner, we're still using a very high quality bearing, making sure that that's going to be running true and sitting in there correctly the entire time.
That's a good point, actually. That's a European bearing. It's one of the best bearings in the world from what we test, and they're replaceable if you get one to where it runs out. See how it has the little snap ring there? So you just pop that snap ring out, push that bearing out, push a new one in if your bearing went out, put that snap ring back in, and you're back rolling again.
So if we talk about what applications we're going to be fitting on here, so if you're looking at your John Deere XPs that are going to be using the 4.5-inch, they'll also work with the Great Plains and the Kinsey. So you can do that in either the mud style tire, which would be the spoked, or the solid.
That brings up a good point, Eric. Why would you run a spoke tire, or why would you run a solid tire?
Well, if you're in areas where you tend to have more mud that's going to be working its way in between that wheel and that opener, you need a way for that to get out. So using the spoked tire allows it so that anything that gets in between, it's not going to be jamming in there and pushing up against that and either interfering with what the opener is trying to do or causing excessive wear.
Gotcha. Yeah. So to help clean out stuff that would get in there. But then there's times when we have some customers like, I want a solid tire because they might be running no-till corn on corn and they don't want those stalks to actually get in there.
Right.
So there's different applications for them. Let's see, what else do we have here?
We also do the 3-inch, which would fit typically a John Deere, but a lot of times the older John Deeres, like an 1890 planter, would be using a 3-inch, or again the Great Plains or the Kinsey would be able to use that. We also have specialty rims to fit the IH early risers.
Yes, there's a reduced inner diameter gauge wheel assembly to fit the case early riser planters. So you can see how that inner diameter is quite a bit less than the actual tire.
And then also we have the 2.5-inch for which is typically used in
Twin rows?
twin rows and also for closer application. There's a lot of that down in cotton.
One other thing we just wanted to point out here on these spoke that's different than other brands is, if you look closely, this spoke comes along and it runs into the actual rim. So as this wheel's spinning, it's transferring the weight from the rim to the spoke here. It's not relying just on your bolts to carry that weight. So that spoke is resting on that rim. So that's another advantage to the Otico gauge wheel. And also there's many other products that Otico does. You've got those rubber rollers that run on the back of some of your high-speed tillage machines. You've got many different press wheels. They're actually OEM on many leading brands. I know I was speaking to the gentleman that manages the purchasing over at Kinsey, and he said they were running Carlisle pretty much on everything on their planters, and when they switched from Carlisle to Otico, their warranties went basically to nothing. So again, we can't overstress the quality of this particular brand.
That's an excellent endorsement when you have a major manufacturer of planters that is actually putting them on their OEM equipment. So on the Kinsey, if you want to have the same one that came with it, we're a pretty good resource for that.
It's good. And these are all in stock, available to ship today. We have the tire onlys and we have the full assemblies. Any questions or comments or requests, please call us at 1-888-4BLADES. Thank you and good afternoon.